Hey everybody, Jane here, and I'm doing a review today on Lipstick in Afghanistan by Roberta. This book is about a woman named Elsa who trains as a nurse and volunteers to do humanitarian aid and is sent to Afghanistan. And there she goes through a lot of adventures, meets a lot of people, particularly, and I know I'm butchering this name, Parween. Parween is one of the women in Afghanistan who she forms a really close friendship with, and then after 6 months, she has to leave. This book was a 3 out of 5 for me, and I have so many feelings about this book. I loved all I learned about Afghanistan. This was a book that was so rich in setting details in a way that I could appreciate. Some books are rich in detail in a way that kind of turns me off. Not this one. This one was absolutely beautiful, amazing, and really looked into the customs and culture in Afghanistan. Now, I do have a friend who's in Pakistan, and I had asked her some questions about the culture, and their culture in Pakistan is quite similar to Afghanistan, although it's not quite the same. I would relate it almost according to what she was telling me, how we are in the US. We're kind of similar to Canada and the UK. Like, they're different, probably closer to like how we are Americans to Canadians. There's some differences, but if I were to go there, I wouldn't to go to Canada, I wouldn't necessarily be culture shocked. Whereas if I were to go to Afghanistan, I would probably feel pretty culture shocked. It's quite different than America. So anyway, so that was interesting talking to her about the culture in the book and Muslim culture in general. I learned a lot from this book, and I think that was the thing I liked best. I also really liked the women in this story. Elsa, Parween, all the women in Afghanistan who, despite all the rules and things that are being put on them and how little power they often have because of it being such a patriarchal society, they still very much pull together and help each other and do amazing things. The lipstick mentioned in the title plays a really big part in this book, and particularly it is a sign of dignity and hope for the women. So for our main character, Elsa, it's something to make her still feel very American when she has to go and dress in Afghanistan clothes, and very much, I don't want to say hide herself, because she does have to physically hide herself, but also she's got to kind of act more subdued maybe than an American woman typically would. You know, in America, she is a nurse, she's got a job in the ER, she does all these big things, and in Afghanistan, she's treated a lot different because she's a woman. And not only is she a woman, but she's an American woman, so she's not even the good kind of woman. Like, I feel like she was very looked down on. Like, she has all these skills, and you would think that would make people be like, oh, we're so glad that you came to help, and but people are more like, why aren't you getting married? And it's funny how that is a cultural thing. I have that issue with my friend in Pakistan. She very much does not understand that in America it's not the end of the world if you're not married. I'm divorced, and I tried to explain to her, like, I don't plan to get married, and that just blows her mind. And similarly, I have a long-term boyfriend, and she's like, well, why doesn't he marry somebody else if you're not going to get married to him? I'm like, because we don't want to, and we live together and we act like we're married. We're just not married. And that's not at all a thing in the Muslim culture and in Pakistan and Afghanistan. So I got quite a bit of chuckles out of some of the conversations I've had with my friend in Pakistan are very similar to ones that Elsa kind of has in Afghanistan, with people being like, well, aren't you married, or are you going to get married? Is there something wrong with you that you're not married? And she's like, whoa, I'm a nurse. So there were a lot of positives about this book. Okay. I love the female representation. I love the setting and understanding the culture. All of those were rich and amazing. And I did want to point out that the writer is a humanitarian aid worker. So a lot of that stuff is probably spot on accurate, and you can feel the accuracy when you read it. It was awesome. However, since I did give it a 3 out of 5, you can guess that there's probably a few things I didn't like about it. And this is the author's debut novel. And so a lot of the things that bothered me probably come from it being a debut novel. And also, she is a humanitarian worker and not necessarily. I don't know how much a background she has in creative writing. And I don't know if this is one of those books that maybe she should have hired a ghostwriter to help her a little bit. It's not unreadable, but stylistically I had a lot of issues with it. The first problem I had is just the voice it's written in. I believe it's third person, which is not my favorite. The whole writing style was not something I related to well. She also gives you so much information in character background that I didn't necessarily want or need. For instance, Elsa's story starts back when she's a little girl. So we get to see Elsa growing up and why she wants to be a nurse. And it's kind of important, but not as important to the rest of the story that we couldn't have gotten it in, like, why did you decide to do this? Because when I was little, I saw an article in National Geographic about humanitarian workers. Okay. Instead, we've got chapters and chapters and chapters of her growing up and the issues with her mother and this and that and this. And it's like, I really didn't need that to continue on to the story. And as a matter of fact, I found the beginning of the book very draggy and I almost DNF'd it. I came really close. I'm glad I didn't DNF it, but I was really bored in the beginning. So I didn't like this stylistically at all. I found it kind of a challenge to read versus, like, if it had been a more engaging style, I would have been able to really, really get in here, because this is so good content, if you will, but style I didn't like. Another thing that I didn't like is the plot. There isn't really, I didn't feel an overarching internal plot to this book. There's a lot of little things going on. And if this was a nonfiction book, that would be very forgivable. But this is a fiction book, so I wanted a little more of an overarching plot. And especially when we get to the end of the book, it just felt like they needed to end the book. And so they were like, let's kill people and do random crap. And like, there wasn't enough foreshadowing for some of the stuff that happened. And I was just like, what? So yeah, I didn't love the plot of this book, and I felt like it almost lacked an overarching plot. It was more like this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And I guess there was some connection, but it wasn't as much as I wanted. It just didn't feel cohesive. I didn't love the glue that was holding this book together, basically. Another complaint I have, and it is a minor one, there is a romance between Elsa and one of the Special Forces guys. And I felt it was very much an insta-love thing. She sees him, she's like, oh, he's hot, and that's it. And like, they do spend some time together and talk and stuff like that, but I wasn't impressed with the romance. And at the end of the book, the way things turn out with the romance, I mean, it was fine, but the whole way this book ended really didn't work so well for me. So, including the romance, it was fine. It just, I was kind of like, what? So yeah, I'm gonna go into some spoilers because I think they're relevant to talking about this book, and some of the things that, particularly plot related, I just didn't quite get. So I'm gonna go into spoilers now in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Perween is actually a really neat character, and she's one of those very strong women characters. And she is, through this book, helping a lot of people out. But I really got frustrated by her story arc because of the things that happen. So she is, prior to meeting Elsa, she is married, has a daughter with her husband. Her husband is killed by the Taliban. Her friend is killed in a bus accident, and her friend is pregnant, and the Elsa manages to save the baby. And I believe this is how they meet to begin with. Elsa manages to save the baby, and Parween takes it and says it was her baby. So she got pregnant before her husband died, and the baby's hers. And so she's raising these 2 kids. Now, while she's doing this, she's doing a lot of other stuff, and Parween ends up dead at the end of this book. And I'm like, what was the point of giving you these 2 children that now your mom's gonna raise when you're gonna end up dead? Because she's taking all these risks that she really shouldn't take. And so she had gone to this place to look at a school site in another area for the United Nations, and because she wanted to volunteer to be a school teacher, and the Taliban was active in that area and killed her. And I was like, it just felt like it destroyed everything that she'd done before. And then you have her as this legendary female warrior that people have been telling stories about, and actually that, after reading like the author's notes, these stories of a legendary female warrior is what gave her the inspiration for this book to begin with. And it just didn't play as enough of a role in it. Like, she's mentioned, but we know that she's not actually Parween. We don't know who she actually is, ever. Parween, at one point, the friend that died on the bus, she had imagined her as this basically superhero woman in Afghanistan, and now in Parween's death, she's assigned that. Because of the whole death thing with Parween, Elsa's kicked out of Afghanistan. And during that whole time, her soldier boyfriend, got hit, and he's hurt, and now they're together, and that's fine. I didn't really care about their romance, and I'm not sure it was a good romance to begin with. But, they killed off Parween, who I liked actually a little more than Elsa, maybe. And of course, Elsa got kicked out, so she's no longer a humanitarian worker. And the whole first part of the book was about how much she just felt like that was her life calling, was to be a humanitarian worker. And now she's like, oh, and I found a man. I'm like, wait a second. This is the whole point. A big part of this book has been you not, doing the strong woman thing by yourself. And these kids in Afghanistan being like, are you going to get married? Because that's what women are supposed to do. And she ends up back in the U.S. with her man. And Parween is dead. Now Parween is a superhero, that's great, but her 2 little kids are being raised by her mother, because all of Parween's sacrifices came to nothing. She died, and all she's got is this legacy. And I found the ending so frustrating. I cannot even tell you how frustrating this ending of the book was, because I wasn't sure what we were leading up to. But I was going and going and going, and then the ending happened, and it felt really random, because Parween has done other heroic things through this book, but they've always been fairly, I don't want to say safe, but within the realm of things that atypical woman should do or could do. They had a girl who had been given as a wife and was being abused, and they helped to rescue her. I think she was given as a wife. They helped to rescue her and send her to a cousin in Kabul. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sorry. But so Parween has done a lot of awesome heroic things, and she's a great character. But again, she's got these two little kids at home, and when she dies, her aged mother is left to take care of them, and I just wasn't real satisfied with her story. And just again, we do see Parween doing these heroic things, but there's not any kind of overarching theme or plot that I could find to this story, and that really frustrated me. I was like, what are we trying to do here? And I just kind of felt that way throughout the whole book. Like, what is this leading to? And then when it led to it, it's like, Elsa got kicked out of Afghanistan and can't do humanitarian aid anymore, but she's got a man. And I was like, no, that's not the ending I wanted. And maybe that is my interpretation of the ending. I don't know. But yeah, this book. And like I said, it just, there was a lot of things that didn't work for me. It is a debut novel, so maybe the next book I will appreciate more, and I definitely would like to read more about this country and this culture and strong women in Afghanistan, strong women standing up to the Taliban. All of the things thematically in this book about women and strength, and even in difficult circumstances. You know, these women have to cover their bodies. These women don't have control of who they marry. These women, in many cases, are in abusive relationships because they were assigned husbands. And the relationships dynamics are very different in the Muslim culture, it seems to me. My friend who is Muslim and in Pakistan, she's not marriage age yet, but you know, she will ultimately be given to one of her cousins in marriage, which is weird to me. And also, you know, she's not allowed to be around boys. Like, their school does not, the boys and girls are not together. There's a lot of things that she as a girl cannot do, such as going out and riding a bike. It's just, it's interesting. And I'm fascinated by so much that was presented in this book. I got frustrated with the storytelling and plot. So I guess that's really what I have to say. If you've read similar books, could you recommend to me something similar to this, but maybe written a little bit differently? Written differently. Yeah, so I would love to hear your recommendations. I'm Jane. I am a writer also. I tend to write historical romances, so not like that. But my books are available Amazon, Kobo, Smashwords, Barnes & Noble, if you'd like to check me out. My social media is also below if you would like to contact me outside of YouTube. Thank you. Bye.